Hello and welcome to the Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce Q&A session. I'm delighted to be joined today by our inaugural guest and Chamber patron, Mr. Doug Wright. Hi, Doug.
Good morning. Good to see you. I hope you're coping during these unprecedented times.
Indeed. And so today we're going to be talking all about the coronavirus job retention scheme that was rolled out last month by the government, aka furloughing, a phrase that few knew before, but I think many are aware of now. And what we wanted to do was to really just have a good sort of dig in with Doug about this, because Doug, it's something that you've had some very rapid and in-depth experience with in recent times. So maybe just set the scene, give us a background about your organization, the size, the scale, and kind of what's happened in terms of McDonald's and furloughing and with your business then.
Okay, well, good morning. For those who don't know me, my name is Doug Wright. I'm a McDonald's franchisee and own and operate 20 restaurants pretty much across the West Midlands, across the Greater Birmingham Chamber. Obviously running 20 restaurants, which 15 are 24 hours, keeps us very, very busy. So we found out just about 2.5 weeks ago what was really starting to happen, and that we knew at some stage we were going to be closing. But it was an enormous shock for us, because you've got all the implications of employing over 2,000 people, and one day to be open and the next day you're told you're going to shut. That was a huge logistical problem for us, employing in excess of 2,000 people, and probably had of perishable stock around 60,000-80,000 pounds at the time we made the decision to shut.
Yeah. And I mean, how was the decision made? I mean, because it was one that you took, wasn't it? And you and the sort of the McDonald's senior management team, rather than being before it was mandated by government.
Sure. It was a real sort of case of, system collaboration. Our franchisor and our franchisees working together. And it was done, I guess, two things, people and reputation. We were picking up that some of our staff were feeling really uncomfortable about being so close to people. We did all we could with social distancing, but other brands were continuing. But we thought by the Sunday evening before we shut on the Monday, people were starting to feel very uncomfortable. And we had to put our people first. And we wanted to make sure during this appalling situation that we preserved and maintained our reputation. And when we got to the end of it, that we were going to be reputation-led.
So it was all about people then, which is absolutely sort of key. I mean, so tell us then, sort of practically with the sort of furloughing. I mean, you made the decision to pretty much, I believe, furlough everybody apart from yourself at present.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I had to do when this all broke, and this is, admitting something, I had to go and Google what furlough meant, because it almost sounded something like, from the agricultural world. So
you weren't alone with that, Doug. Yeah.
When we shut on Monday, the 24th, the biggest thing for us was there was no assistance package in place. It was 5 days later before the Chancellor came out with the coronavirus job retention scheme. And that was on the Friday evening. So the first thing we had to do before furloughing people, we had to be really upfront and transparent with our staff. We wanted our staff, who were very, very unsure what was going to happen to them between the Monday and the Friday. So we wanted to engage with them all the way through the process. And that was a tough one, to go on camera and basically record a message that everyone was going to listen to. It just felt right. It felt the right thing to do, even though it was uncomfortable. I wasn't able to say great news. I said to people, this is the situation. Every step along the way, I want you to be part of the decision and understand what's happening. But in essence, from the Monday to Friday, 5 days, we had to talk to people every day, and all the questions were going to be, am I going to have a job? Am I going to get some pay? So employee engagement is absolutely key and must be at the forefront of everything you do. So,
I mean, sorry, I mean, I was just going to ask, Doug, I mean, what tools did you use for that engagement? You sort of mentioned there recording a video. Was there particular tools that you found, especially useful for communicating? Because it's a big workforce which is spread geographically as well, isn't it, across the region?
yeah, so what we did was I would record a video, go onto our closed Facebook page, and then what we would say is, please share this with people who aren't on Facebook. And I think we were getting through, I think the stats tell me we got through to about 95.5% of our employees, which is fantastic. So you've got to, in this world, uncertain world, you have got to engage with everybody and keep them feeling that they are part of this system, because it was frightening for everyone. Overnight your livelihood is cut off.
Yeah, and I mean, so between the Monday and the Friday, when you've made the decision to close, so people used to going to work aren't. This is before the furloughing scheme was rolled out. So what was your message to everyone? And did you sort of know, and sort of behind the scenes, that this sort of assistance was going to come, or you were just hopeful that it would?
We were engaging with, through McDonald's HQ with some pretty senior government people. So I went to bed on the Sunday night, knew we were going to shut on the Monday. So I just took a position of leadership. I decided, because people were so uncomfortable with this, what I said is, I'm going to, until we get a decision from the government, I'm going to pay you in full myself. So that's what I did.
Right.
And overnight, I knew it bought me a few days, because for me, success when we come through the other side of this is that I still employ every single person. I want them to feel comfortable. And so I needed to do something, just the holding position of a week pull. So we gave everybody a week's full pay, which kind of immediately gave me the opportunity to stop, think, and formulate a strategy. But halfway through formulating that strategy, the Chancellor came on television and gave us this wonderful scheme.
Yeah. So, I mean, real leadership there, and that's how you foster loyalty, isn't it? Retain people and already thinking about the sort of the time when things unlock, you're able to get back to business and being in as strong a position as possible. I mean, so the actual sort of the furloughing scheme itself, so it's rolled out. Obviously, you've got that situation, 2,000 plus people who aren't working. I mean, tell us, you sort of dug in, and then I guess for those watching as well, your thought process and maybe advice and knowledge as you went through the scheme and how you applied it to your people.
Well, a few days before, we engaged with a solicitor we retain on employment practice. And that was only to make sure that I could make really data-led and system-led decisions. So the lady was advising me and gave me the framework, which is now available for anybody on the internet, about how to furlough an employee. But let me talk you through, in simplistic terms, how it works, shall I?
Yes, please, yeah.
So the first thing you've got to do is you've got to explain to everybody what the furloughing process is, and you'll get the opposite response that you're expecting, because people think furloughing, is it good? And from the outset, I was very, very positive. I stressed and kept stressing that this was to address a temporary situation and that I guaranteed they would have a job afterwards. So in essence, what we did, we started by explaining the process to everybody in a similar way by recording a message, sending it out to everybody, encouraging everyone to forward it on to all their employees. Yeah. So that was day one. Day two was anybody who was uncomfortable about furloughing got to speak to one of four of us within the leadership team. And, the questions were very basic, but we wanted to treat everybody on an individual basis. So we'd address any concerns they had. So that's what we did on day two. So I think we had about 15 people who wanted to talk to us out of the 2,000 plus. So the next day we thought, gosh, how are we going to get to so many people so quickly? So what we did was I looked around, and the best platform to send a letter and some
Yeah.
background about furloughing, we signed up to a company called DocuSign. So any electronic service on board.
Yeah.
This service cost us £1.03 each. So on day 3, we sent out instructions about what the entire process was of furloughing. That's called, technical term is intent to furlough. So that went out, and it was amazing, because here I was thinking about, oh my God, 2,000 stamps, 2,000 envelopes, etc. But we just put one letter called intent to furloughing online.
Yeah. Yeah.
Following by an acceptance of furlough letter. We pressed a button, and I was like, God, that seemed ridiculously easy. So we used technology, and we were led by technology, sent it to everyone individually. And I think within 18 hours, we were at 92% complete.
So it was sort of in a way then, actually following the steps and the process remarkably straightforward, as you say, using tech to make life that bit easier.
Yeah, I think what you have to do if you want to be a good leader in this as well, you've got to de-stress the process, because myself, inside me, this is a new situation, you're quite nervous, but I've made sure that every time that I'm in front of any of my people, whether it's digital, whether it's one-to-one FaceTime, whether it's a telephone call, that I am exuding, just trying to be excited about the future. But as a leader, you've got to make people feel that this is really temporary, and that the furloughing process guarantees them some salary at 80%. And as soon as people know that they've got certainty, they're happy, and they really, really feel valued and special. If you don't furlough people, what I'm being told, and I'm picking up from lots of businesses, if you don't get on with the process, people are at home, they're trying to work at home. Our environment, we couldn't have done it because we need to be at the restaurants. Yeah. But the longer it goes on without you making a decision, people start to feel a little bit uncomfortable because nothing's happened. Are they going to keep their job? So by acting swiftly, we were able to reassure people, explain that we were working through temporary and unprecedented times. And as soon as they knew that they got a job afterwards, people were really happy. But you've got to stress that they have a job afterwards.
And Doug, I mean, how did you deal with sort of complicated cases? People on long-term sick or maternity leave.
Very simply. Yeah, very simple. So what we did with the people who are outside the box, as I call it, people who are off work, SSP, statutory maternity pay, etc., I called all of them one by one.
Right.
So I would have had about 16 of those. So I called them, arranged a FaceTime meeting so we could look at each other in the eyes and let's just listen to their situation and agreed the output. But we took them away from everyone else and on a one-to-one basis called them. It was really nice as well. You get a chance to have a chat, see how they are, how long before the baby's born, or how is the baby doing. But it's that people situation. You've got to put people first.
Yeah, no, very much comes across. It's people led, isn't it? And I mean, for those staff then now who are furloughed, I mean, they can't do any work obviously for the business. And you're closed anyway. So I suppose in your circumstances, it's maybe slightly different than some other businesses. But people can undergo training, they can volunteer, etc. Are you sort of engaging or communicating anything around that, or is it very much a case of how do you keep in touch while people are on furlough?
So the first thing to stress to everybody, and this is essential, they know. Nobody can do anything related to the company. Yeah. So if you furlough somebody, you've got to do it with the intent that the government rules are an employee cannot do stress any work.
Yeah.
So your next point in terms of voluntary community, that's an individual decision. It's something that I'm obsessed with. You know, I think that if you're in a position to influence and make the lives of those less fortunate better, you must do. A good example, when we shut on the Monday evening, I spent the next 48 hours, as many of my team did, delivering 1,000 pints of milk, 3,000 eggs, bacon, all sorts of stuff, all sort of short-term stuff. We wanted to put it out there. For me, I would have been furious if we'd have put food in the bin.
Yeah.
So, myself, everybody, leadership went out, delivered it. We went from, the Women's Hospital, Ronald McDonald House, less fortunate neighbours, a whole plethora of different people. So that's what we personally did, in terms of we've encouraged people to go out and help in their community where they think it's safe, where they can socially distance, and to just watch out for people. People who can't get out of the house, communicate with them, go and do it, but stress, only do it when it's safe and you are respecting and working within all the government parameters.
Yeah, make that positive difference where you can.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, so the scheme itself is still being worked through. We're talking in the sort of first week of April. It's expecting that the sort of the portal and the formal piece will be up and running by the end of this month. So in the meantime, then I take it you're still responsible for paying all of the wages, yeah?
We're hoping to start getting reimbursed. I don't know the technicalities, but I feel a moral obligation to make provision to pay everybody, and next pay period will be the start of the furlough period. So we will pay it, the 80%, and then we'll reclaim it from the government. That's a tough bit. So in terms of, because whilst you've no longer got any turnover or any sales coming into the business, we've still got the obligation of the 80% to pay. So right now we're okay, but we are engaging with government, particularly Andy Street has been wonderful in trying to make sure that the portal, which is the piece you put all your data in, you put your data in and they pay you out. Once you're paid out, it's okay, once you get in the cycle. But the difficult piece is this holding time. But I'm assured that I think that, the Chancellor, the government have acted incredibly responsibly. And what they've done through this coronavirus job retention scheme is they've given my staff stability and certainty about the future in what is a situation none of us would ever want to see again.
Yeah, no, it's been quite remarkable, the series of support packages that have been put together at such short notice. And I mean, a couple of the key points that we're lobbying on, as you know, is that all of the different schemes, we need the cash to get through to the businesses, to yourself quickly, so that they can get through to people. And I suppose it's just also being aware of all of the gaps, because this is being done at so much pace that it won't be perfect. There will be things which are missed at the start, but it's important that there's then a degree of flexibility baked in. That's not so much just on the furloughing scheme, but some of the other measures as well. I mean, just on the job retention scheme. So at the moment, it runs until the end of May. I mean, I assume, and I think the general assumption is that if needed, and depending on what the situation is around, sort of stay at home, lockdown, your ability to reopen, that will extend, because until you can reopen, you've got thousands of people who can't go to work, can you?
Yeah, I mean, what we can't do is we can't put too much more pressure on the government, because, the situation is changing every few hours. Who would have thought yesterday morning that Boris Johnson would be in intensive care last night? Yeah. So I think the government should be applauded for what they've done. There are some holes in the system that need sorting out and clarifying, and the scheme is ever changing and ever moving, but it feels like it's going in the right direction. Obviously, we'd all love to be open on the 1st of June again, but we're going to be data-led, and fortunately, we've got advisors who are going to advise the country scientifically about when we can open. But I think the Chancellor will have to review it every couple of weeks, but it's keeping my business afloat, by having this retention scheme, because I wouldn't want to get to the end and have to start and rehire and overnight, have, to be recruiting. This gives me absolute clarity. I've been asked lots of times this week, should I feel guilty about furloughing my staff? My experience of having gone through it is the complete opposite. If you need to furlough, it's a great way of keeping your staff. They know they're going to get a salary, and most importantly, they've got a job at the end. So the big learn from my own 20 restaurants is that it's the opposite of what you think, because it gives clarity, it takes away all the uncertainty, and it tells them this is what we are doing as a business to address this difficult situation, but it gives you a position that it's temporary. You've got certainty afterwards. You've got a job afterwards. So overnight, we stripped out the uncertainty, and we've had amazing feedback from our employees who feel very assured. They feel very much part of us. And I suppose the last chapter of this is that every week from now until we reopen, I will send out a couple of minute video every Friday. I was lucky enough to record it whilst walking through the park in Sutton Coldfield last Friday. So keeping moving and without my relevant distance, but we are committed to employee engagement because I don't want people sitting at home feeling uncomfortable. We've also, as a separate strand, we have reassured people. We have in my business something called an employee assistance program, where if people are feeling uncertain, mental health issues, financial issues, anything that concerns them, they can call this hotline, and this hotline will put them in contact with specialists, all of whom we pick up the bill for. So don't forget your people while they're off. They're all our people. We're one big team. So engagement is so important, so that post this, we come out with our reputation, which is key, absolutely as it was before, so that we have happy employees and customers feel that we acted responsibly, because ultimately in that way we've got a brand that we can use moving forward, and this situation can be remembered as a very nasty and temporary situation that affected us all.
And I think that's critical, isn't it? How you conduct yourself, both as an organisation and as individuals during this time. Now, your reputation during this time will endure and will carry forward. And while it is remarkable what we are living through right now, I mean, this is sort of true sort of history in the making, as it were. It will pass, and I think that it's clear from, as you've been talking, Doug, you've been, it's very people centric, your approach, and I know that's how you run your business anyway, but clearly dealing with this, very people focused, giving them certainty, dealing with the here and now and these remarkable sort of circumstances, making sure your people are feeling good about it and actually sort of reassured, but then also having that eye very much on the future and the sort of the bounce back whenever that may come. It's not about second guessing that right now, is it? But kind of just being ready to spring back and to, I guess, serve your customers in the best possible way when you can. I mean, just to sort of wrap up, and I must thank you for such sort of candid and insightful observations, and hopefully those who are watching will be able to sort of take some tidbits from that. I mean, is there any one single sort of piece of advice that you'd want to say to anyone who's out there and still sort of debating what they do in their own organisation right now?
Just think about, for those who need to do it but haven't yet done it, think about how everyone feels at home. You've got to be a good leader, you've got to make a decision, and you've got to put people first. It's essential, because we want to make sure that all of us, every business across the Greater Birmingham Chamber of Commerce, they've got a workforce afterwards, because we mustn't give away all those years of people we've trained, developed. And this is applicable to every business. We've got great assets sitting at home. we must make sure that those great assets are ready to go and feel happy and continue their job and start up again. But think about these people at home. They're the most important asset you have, and you've got to make sure that they aren't sitting at home feeling disengaged, demoralized, concerned. Your job as a leader is to make sure that you engage throughout, and afterwards we can all remember it and look back. But you want to have the same workforce when you restart up. Losing people to me, I will feel very personally very sad about.
Doug, thank you very much once again for your contributions. Thank you for joining us. And thank you everyone for watching our Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce Q&A session.